You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are the universe having a human experience. Every atom in your body was forged inside a dying star billions of years ago. The minerals in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you just breathed in, all of it created in the core of stars that exploded so you could exist. You're not separate from the universe. You are what the universe looks like when it becomes aware of itself. In the next few minutes, we are going to trace your entire journey from the first single cell that appeared on the planet about 4 billion years ago to the moment you're sitting here right now, questioning your own existence. And by the end, the way you see yourself, the people around you, and the things we create will never be quite the same. 3.8 billion years ago, that's where the story began. Not 2 cells, not a community, but one. Everything alive on this planet today, every plant, every insect, every animal, every human being is a direct descendant of that single cell. We share the same ancestor. DNA evidence confirms that all life on Earth shares a common ancestor. Scientists call it the last universal common ancestor, LUCA. Every living organism on the planet carries traces of that original cell in its genetic code. That single cell began dividing, multiplying, differentiating. Over billions of years, single cells learned to cooperate, to specialize, to form systems. Here's where it gets remarkable. The most significant event in the history of life on Earth wasn't the appearance of humans. It was when separate organisms decided to merge. Around 2 billion years ago, a small bacteria entered a larger cell. Instead of being destroyed, they cooperated. That merger created the mitochondria, the energy source of every complex cell alive today. You're literally made of organisms that chose cooperation over separation. Without that merger, no plants, no animals, no humans. The most successful biological event in Earth's history was the decision to become one. And that cooperation didn't stop there. It kept going until it produced something nobody saw coming. Single cells became multicellular organisms. Organisms became fish. Fish turned into amphibious. Amphibians turned to land animals with developed nervous systems. Nervous systems became brains. Every step was cooperation. Cells working together to form tissue. Tissue forming organs. Organs forming a body developing awareness of itself. Research has concluded that consciousness doesn't suddenly appear in humans. It evolved gradually from the first cells. Every simple organisms show basic awareness of their environment. What we call human consciousness is the same awareness, just enormously amplified. Think about what a body actually is. Trillions of cells. Everyone distinct. Everyone doing a different job. Heart cells, brain cells, immune cells, skin cells. All completely different in function and form. And yet, none of them experience themselves as separate from the body. The heart doesn't compete with the lungs. The liver doesn't go to war with the kidneys. They cooperate because they understand at a biological level that they are one system. The health of the whole is the health of each part. You are 37 trillion cells that figured this out every single day without even thinking about it. So what went wrong? How did the most cooperative species on the planet end up at war with itself and with that very planet that created it? Around 300,000 years ago, the human frontal lobe reached its current size, and with that came something no other organism had developed to this degree: a sense of self, a separate identity, an I that felt distinct from everything around it. The prefrontal cortex, the most recently evolved part of the human brain, is responsible for self-referential thinking, the ability to think about yourself as a separate entity. This was an extraordinary survival advantage. It allowed planning, strategy, and anticipation of threats. But it came with a cost. The same mechanism that allowed humans to survive, the construction of a separate self, also created the experience of separation from each other, from nature, from the planet. And that sense of separation, once it became identity, needed protecting, defending, expanding. Every war in human history has been fought over identity. My tribe, my religion, my nation, my ideology. Or in other words, stories constructed in the frontal lobe, defended with real weapons and real lives. When cells in a body stop cooperating with the whole, they stop serving the system and start operating purely for their own survival and expansion. We call it cancer. It doesn't just hurt the body, it threatens the entire system. Separation at the level of human identity is doing to civilization what cancer does to a body. A few cells for a few million people operating as if they are separate from the whole, damaging the system that sustains all of them. And yet, the separation was never real. It was always a story. Here's the science that proves this. The atom in your body is not yours. They cycle continuously through the environment. The carbon in your cells was in the atmosphere 6 months ago and will be in a tree in 6 months from now. Every atom in the human body is replaced over time. The body you have today shares almost no physical material with the body you had about 7 years ago. You are a temporary pattern, not a permanent thing. The boundary between you and the world is not where your skin ends. Your skin is porous. You breathe in the world. You breathe out into it. You are in constant physical exchange with everything around you. The feeling of being separate is a construction of the frontal lobe, useful for survival, but not a description of reality. Reality is what the science has been confirming for decades. At the quantum level, particles that have interacted remain connected regardless of distance. The universe is not a collection of separate things. It is one interconnected system that has differentiated into forms, temporarily before returning to the whole. You are one of those forms, temporary, specific, and completely continuous with everything that has ever existed. So if separation is the illusion, what does it actually feel like to live from that recognition? When you genuinely understand that the person next to you is made of the same stardust as you, that their suffering is the same system hurting, that their joy is the same system flourishing, something shifts. Not as a concept, not as a spiritual belief, but as a direct recognition of what is already true. The conflicts that feel urgent, the need to be right, to be separate, to protect the story of who you are, becomes slightly less convincing. Not because you've suppressed them, but because you've seen through them. You're not a drop of water that fell from the ocean and forgot where it came from. You are the ocean, temporarily taking the shape of a drop. And the moment you remember that, everything changes. Not out there, but in here. Take this as an invitation to return to who you really are. Tell me in the comments what you think about your perspective on this. In the description, there's a free ebook which gives you simple daily anchors to return to the recognition of oneness right in the middle of your ordinary day. Peace.